All right, dude, we are live. What's up, guys? This is Dem Keys, and today, uh, today we're gonna be discussing Linux streaming related stuff because good news, I managed to get Ubuntu to install uh on my Windows laptop. I don't know what's going on with my voice, but yeah, okay. I managed to get Ubuntu to install on this laptop from which I'm streaming right now. Right now, I'm streaming off of Windows. This is my, okay, a bit of a recap. This is my Windows laptop. This is a laptop that I've had for about 6 years, and it's only ever had Windows on it, and it wasn't doing so well in the past couple of years. Um, And recently, I decided to shrink the C partition. There was only one partition on the entire hard drive. The hard drive itself was is 1 TB, and the entire 1 TB was given to the C partition, plus the bootloader partition, and I think there was a small partition for Windows recovery related stuff. But yeah, for the most part, the majority of 900 something GB was given to C drive. And recently I got the idea to try and shrink this partition and hopefully create unallocated space, which I could then, install Linux on by partitioning that and, installing Linux on that partition. And dude, let me tell you, the past couple of days they've been a time. I've had they've been a journey, let's say. And throughout this journey, I've had a time. Um, it's taken a lot of tinkering, a lot of research, a lot of testing things out, and um, yeah, it just it's been it's been holy shit. It's been a time. But yesterday, after yesterday's stream, I decided to try and install Ubuntu again because so the shrinking of the partition, it worked, and then I had the unallocated space, which was great because then all I had to do was run the Ubuntu installer, and in the installer I can create the partition. I did that, but then it kept on failing, not creating the partition, but the installation. And it's not even that the installation would explicitly fail; it would just remain stuck in a certain state. Like it would get to a certain point and then just remain there. It wouldn't freeze. The UI is completely, responsive, and even in the logs, it would say success. And when I fed those specific logs, because they had like very technical information, when I fed those specific logs into Gemini, it said based on these logs, yes, your installation has succeeded. However, there are some steps that take place after the installation, and it seems like those steps are not happening for some reason. So there was a bunch of testing stuff out that I had to do, and because it was taking some time to actually get it to work, I didn't want to miss my stream. I'm talking about yesterday. I didn't want to miss my stream, so I decided to just put a pause on that and re-enable all of the other settings that Gemini had suggested changing in or let me say reverting back all of the settings that Gemini had suggested changing from the BIOS. I said, okay, just keep in mind that I have these things that I'm changing back, and later on, I can retry the thing again. All right, cool. So I then did my stream yesterday after changing the BIOS settings. And after yesterday's stream, after the stream got over, I was gonna try installing Ubuntu again, but I figured, okay, let me try creating a bootable disk again, creating a bootable USB again. This time I'll download a fresher version of Ubuntu. I say fresher because what I had was 24.04.2, and the newer one is 24.04.4. So it's just that difference. But yeah, I did that, and I set up the bootable USB again. And the interesting thing is, okay, so I have no idea what changed. I don't know if there was something bugged in the previous um, bootable USB thing that I had created. I don't know if that was bugged or if there was some other issue, or if it was maybe the fact that I used the startup disk creator. In this case, I didn't use startup disk creator. I used something called DD. Oh, hold on. We are dropping frames. Okay, hold up. I need to try and lighten the load on the connection and oh, hold up. Yeah. Okay, I think we are good now. So what was I saying? Give me a second. Let me open up my chat on my phone so I can uh let me yeah, okay. So what was I saying? Yeah, I have no idea what it was, whether it was give me a second. Yeah, I don't know if it was something bugged with the the bootable USB that was created. As in, I don't even know what to call it. Like, I don't know if there was some sort of issue with creating the bootable USB. Let me just say that. I don't know if there was some sort of issue that occurred when I was creating the bootable USB previously, or if it was something to do with my laptop or what. I don't know. But with the previous thing, it wasn't working, and then this time, I I decided to recreate the bootable USB with a fresher version of Ubuntu. And also, instead of using Startup Disk Creator, I decided to use DD instead. Because Startup Disk Creator, for some reason, it kept giving me an error of some sort. I can't remember if I ever figured out what the error was, but when I told Gemini about this, Gemini was like, okay, there's another way that you could use, especially since you have a terminal based workflow. You could use DD instead. Now, the thing about DD is that DD, okay, I don't know exactly what DD is meant for, but one of the things that I've used it for the most over the years, I mean, I have to use it very rarely, but each time that I use it, I've mainly only used it to move data from one point to another in blocks. And this is useful for various use cases. There could be situations where you want to write things in a specific way. You want to write things at a specific point. You want to write things in a specific size or shape or whatever. There's like uh, it's a very I don't know if I should say sophisticated or versatile tool that lets you do a bunch of these kinds of operations. Like for example, I had to use it a while back when I was learning how to create bootloaders just little toy bootloaders, just to learn how bootloader tech works. Old bootloader tech, not new. The new tech is EFI, and I'm super happy that I was able to just get my Ubuntu to install with this EFI, uh, the EFI system that's already set up here. I'm super happy about that. But okay, anyways, all okay, all that being said, I recreated the bootable USB. I set up the installation again, and Gemini was actually advising that I only do root partition. Not initially. Initially we had like a discussion about what kinds of partitions I should set up. I already had my mind made up that I wanted a separate root partition and a separate home partition. And then other than that, I wanted to know if I need a boot partition and a swap partition. Um, and I didn't need either of those. For swap space, I'm just letting the OS handle it. So it's going to use swap file instead of a dedicated swap partition. And boot, I don't need it because it's using EFI, and also um, any of the kernels and stuff that need to be stored temporarily, they'll just get stored in the root partition because I haven't specified a boot partition. Anyways, once the when the Ubuntu installation kept failing a couple of times, that's when Gemini was like, okay, this time just so it's a little simpler for your system because it keeps failing. Don't do two separate partitions. Don't do a root and home. Just do a root partition, and you'll have a home directory in there. Later on, you can try to split it out and create a separate home partition. And I came this close to doing that, but then for some reason I was like, no, you know what? Let me try this with a root and a home, like a separate root and separate home, and hopefully it works out. And as it turns out, it worked out. It worked out pretty well. The installation succeeded, and I now have. Wait, I just noticed that the time on my Windows machine is off. I don't think it I don't. Words. Hold on. Calm down. I don't think it matters because, well, I don't think you guys can see the time. Anyways, I mean, I'm looking at the time. It says 12 a.m. It's not 12 a.m. right now. It's 3 a.m. But yeah, yeah. So I managed to, or let's say the Ubuntu installation succeeded, and I now have Windows and Ubuntu on this laptop. And since yesterday, I would say for a good like close to 24 hours now. Well, aside from the time that I spent sleeping, aside from that, the majority of my time has been spent setting up Ubuntu. Um, well, Ubuntu itself was set up. The majority of the time was spent setting up the specific like tools that I need. The OS itself was set up and ready to go. I just had to install various things like the Kitty terminal and the various settings for Kitty terminal and NeoVim, and then the LazyVim configuration for distribution. That's the word I was looking for. The LazyVim distribution for NeoVim. Then various other tools like UV for project and dependency management in Python projects. Then the Rust up the Rust tool chain, the entire Rust tool chain for Rust development, and Yahtzee, which is my file manager. All of these are like terminal based utilities. They're all either CLIs or TUIs. And what else? What else? I'm trying to remember if there was any GUI related thing that I installed. Oh, yeah, I also tried out Godot. Not tried out. I downloaded because I've already like I'm not like, well, I'm still a beginner in I'm saying tried out Godot as if I've never touched Godot before, and I've done it for a couple of weeks, so I'm not really, completely new to it. But yeah, I downloaded Godot and tested out Godot to see how well it runs, and it runs pretty well. Another thing that I was incredibly, and I mean incredibly happy about is that I was able to install the NVIDIA drivers because this laptop that I'm doing, Windows and Linux dual boot on. This laptop does have an NVIDIA GPU. It also has 8 GB of RAM and a Core i5 processor with 8 cores. So I've got, in terms of computation, I've got some decent resources compared to the other machines that I have. Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, yeah, it is. It is kind of true. It's. I would say on par with my other desktop that has like 12 GB of RAM and and an older Core i5 processor. I'm talking about this desktop. I can open up BTOP here. So this one has a Core i5 3570. Hold on. Wait, I don't know how to. I'll have to wait. No, I'll have to open up Task Manager on this machine to look at. Wait, no, I had taken a. No, that's. I don't have that here. Actually, no, I do. Wait, I had sent the image. Wait. I can. Did I? I had a conversation with Gemini about this. Okay, no. I'm just gonna open up because I did send the thing here. I believe I put it into Scratch stuff. I'd sent the image over. Screen cap, there it is. Um, so I can copy this, create a new tab, and let's do kitten iCat this. Okay, so I did, yeah, you know what? I can show this. I can show this image. The image itself might be green screen, so you're not going to see the green stuff. Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You guys aren't seeing the green stuff. So I mean, the image is not. It's not very useful. Either way, okay. This has a Core i5 8250, while my other system, this desktop, this one has a Core i5 3570. So here I've got 8 cores and I've got 8 GB of RAM. So I'm pretty happy about that. I'm there's a ton of stuff that I'm going to be doing, that I'm going to be experimenting with. But yeah, uh I've spent the better part of the past, like, let's say I don't know, 12 to 15 hours. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. Well, okay, let's say the better part of the past 24 hours setting up my Ubuntu laptop, my Ubuntu, well, system. And oh, another thing I wanted to set up and have been setting up is OBS, because I want to eventually be able to stream off of that Ubuntu OS. So then I'll basically never be booting into Windows anymore. It'll be all Ubuntu. Now, the thing is, I need to figure out ways to do to make the application smoother, because if I'm going to be streaming off of, and this is what I was testing out, before I started streaming, before I started today's stream. I was spending a bunch of time testing out OBS, various like window sources and how well they're performing and stuff. For the most part, they perform well, but I noticed that some part of the system eventually starts to get overwhelmed. And are you guys able to see this? Actually, okay, you might be able to see this, but I don't think the trails look that great. So it's not a good way to explain it. But okay, there are trails. The Kitty terminal that I'm using, I've set up cursor trails. This is actually a really, really useful and like helpful feature for me. Initially, like when they implemented the thing, a lot of people were saying that this is a great it's a great feature. It's really cool to have. It may not have much utility, but it's super cool to have. So like we're gonna set the thing up. But then for me specifically, this is something that helps because I tend to not be able to find the cursor, and I tend to lose the cursor when I'm like moving it around. At least in the case of NeoVim, we have like this line highlighter kind of thing. But then if it's a long line, then I get lost like where the cursor is in the line. My eyes at least aren't able to always follow the cursor. So seeing a trail, it helps me catch up. Also, as mentioned before, it looks really cool. So I've set this up, and for it's smooth. It's smooth on even the new system. But then when I have a couple of different Kitty terminals running, gradually the trails start to lag, and even like in general, the experience on the terminals, it starts to kind of deteriorate. It starts to kind of lag a little bit. So I'm trying to find the right. I'm trying to find the what's the what should I say? I'm trying to find where the line is in terms of how much load I can put on this machine while actively streaming from it. Because in general, I don't have like too much load on the machine when I'm not streaming and I'm just using the machine as it is, and I'm going to, oh my God, I am going to. We are getting back into Godot. We are getting back into Rust, and I mean, I've already gotten back into Rust, but we're going to get into Godot Rust or Rust Godot. I forgot what terminology they were using for the extension that adds Rust support to Godot. But yeah, we're gonna be getting back into Godot, and we're gonna be exploring Rust for Godot so that we can do a bunch of Godot related stuff. I was really hoping that I would be able to do a stream directly from Ubuntu today, but then they're like after experimenting a bit, and that's kind of why the stream also became a little late because I was busy experimenting. And there are a few things. Actually, I should I should make a list. Um, Now, where do I want to place the list? Empty directory. I'll place the list in empty directory. So we're going to close this. Okay, we're going to temporarily go back and back. And actually, no, we don't need to do this. I'm okay. I still needed to close that though. We can use this. This is VOD splitter. Actually, I need to get back into VOD splitter and into the VOD splitter project as well. No, let's go back here. Hold on. What is this? I can do it here. I can do it here. cd into the empty directory, and then neovim. Um, Later on, I'll be moving this. I'll be moving this dock, but yeah. Um, New Ubuntu uh, checklist, I guess, .txt. Okay, so first things first, like off the top of my head, OBS settings. OBS settings. I need to get my okay, on the new machine, the the resolution of the screen is 1920 by 1080, but I'm not streaming in 1920 by 1080. I want to turn it down a little bit, but like not too much, just a little lower than 1920 by 1080, enough to where I'm comfortable that it's not putting too much load on my connection. Give me a second here, hold on. Okay, so uh filters. I need to filters and filter setting. Filters and filter settings. Oh, another very good news is that my audio interface is being recognized by Ubuntu out of the box. So I didn't really need to do much in terms of having to set up the in terms of having to set up the mic, because I was worried that maybe Ubuntu might not recognize the audio interface, and then I would have to do some settings to get it to recognize. But no, it recognized the thing out of the box, and then in OBS I was just able to select the mic. So that's perfectly fine. Now I need to look at the sources. So under sources, I need to copy the chat source. I'll need to copy all the media images. Then I'll need to what more is there? Oh, well, there's a simple social media thing that I've set up, which I might change, to be honest. I might change this later on, but like for the sake of just recreating the thing one to one, because I've the layout that I have going on stream right now, I've set up an almost identical layout in terms of which windows are being displayed. So I've set up the matrix rain in the background. I've set up the bottom left window, which is in the case of Ubuntu, it's natively it's capturing a Kitty terminal that's running natively, which and from that Kitty terminal, I'm SSH'd into another machine and attached to a tmux session. So it's displaying that session. Then I have another Kitty terminal running, and that's our bottom left, or that's our bottom right window, or we can say mid right window, center right window. That's another Kitty terminal running, which is also SSH into the same machine, but it's attached to another tmux session, not the same tmux session. So these are two separate sessions, basically how you guys are seeing it right now. Only I've found like a different way to display it. And I found I'm gonna have to make a small change to my I'm gonna have to make a small change to my, what do you call it? I'm gonna have to make a small change to my setup, where so the bottom right window that you're seeing right now, this is being captured on another machine, and it is being streamed over RTMP over the network. to this machine. And then on this machine, I'm capturing the video feed. So what you're looking at is a video feed being captured. It's not the terminal running on the machine from which I'm streaming. What I want to do is, in the top right, I have the browser, and the browser is running natively on the machine that I'm streaming from. But what I want to do is, just for the sake of reducing the load on the machine, on the streaming machine, just for the sake of reducing the load, I think I'm gonna start capturing the browser via RTMP instead. So what I'll do is I'll run the browser on another machine, as in the other machine on which I have the RTMP server running right now. Basically, the machine from which I'm able to do this, where I'm able to, like, this video feed that you're seeing of this thing right now, instead of this, it's going to be a video feed showing the browser. And this, what you're seeing right now, is going to be running natively well, it's going to be running within a terminal. I should say that. It's going to be running within one of the terminals in Ubuntu. And oh yes, very, very important. That is this thing is definitely one of the reasons why I wasn't entirely comfortable with starting today's stream in on Ubuntu. My fucking VTuber app, dude. I don't have the VTuber app set up there. So what I need to do is, hold on. What I need to do is export for Linux, test data storage. This is to do with the VTuber app. Test data storage related stuff on Linux, and make sure the paths point to something that makes sense on Linux. Okay. Test mic and make sure app is reading correct mic. Okay, then what else is there? Is there anything more? I don't think there's anything more. Oh, Spout. Yes, I need to get rid of Spout. Well, that sounds bad. I need to stop using Spout on in the Linux build, or I'm gonna have to disable the usage of Spout, because okay, I have Spout set up here, and it ends up being much lighter than doing a whole window capture of the thing. But actually, I should look into how much lighter it would really be in my case. Like, is it really going to make that much of a difference? Yeah, I'm going to have to see how much lighter it would be really in my case. Another little issue I need to tackle, which is probably why we're going to be doing our streaming still on Windows. Like, we're going to remain on Windows at least for the next couple of days. But like, I'm working hard to, set up the Ubuntu side of things, and I need to work a little harder on setting up the streaming side of things on Ubuntu. I was working on setting up like all of the other tools, because dude, I had this entire list of, hold on, let me show you the entire dude. Okay, no, back up. Let's can I where am I getting it from? Okay, hold up. We can do something here. Work, yeah, work works. After, yeah, there. So this is my entire list of tools that I need to install after doing a fresh Linux install. At this point, VS Code and Unity Hub, I might as well just remove them from the list because I'm not doing Unity stuff anymore. And well, I don't use VS Code for coding anymore. I use NeoVim. But all of the other stuff definitely need it. Like at the top of the list, we have NeoVim, we have Kitty, the terminal, Nerd fonts, because a bunch of the tools that I'm using, they use these fonts. The font, this specific font is, from what I've understood, nerd fonts, they give you extra icons, extra, like the font itself, it contains graphics for icons, and those icons will be displayed by the terminal. So if you are using tools that require these kinds of icons, like I could give you an example right now if I open up Lazy, I guess. Yeah, so if you look at stuff like, I don't know if this is an accurate example or not, but like this play button, for example, if you look at, actually, there's a bunch. If you look at the bottom of this window where I'm moving this, if you, I could wait. Will this allow me? No, I can't do that. But yeah, wherever my cursor is going, you can see a bunch of different types of like graphics, stuff like this box, for example. If you look beneath, I don't know if this stuff beneath is actually using Node font or not, but yeah, Node fonts, they apparently contain like these kinds of extra graphics that many of these tools that I'm using would require. Where does this go? Yahtzee also uses Node fonts. So various like icons that you see, icons like next to these names. I believe these are also coming from Node fonts. Wait, I just opened this up without thinking about. Yeah, yeah, no, I think we're good. This is fine. Um, yeah. Anyways, so I needed to install at least one Node font, and the font that I like specifically is Intel One Mono. I'm glad that I discovered this. Like, this is like from years ago, back when I was active on Twitter. I mean, I'm active on Twitter again now, but like, wait, give me a second. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. So, Node fonts, and the specific Node font that I wanted was Intel One Mono. It's what you're looking at right now. This is what Intel One Mono looks like. And also I needed a Node font, like I said before, because a bunch of tools like NeoVim and Kitty and um, yeah, I think Kitty also uses Node fonts. I can't remember. Though I did have to set the font that I wanted in Kitty. Um, I don't know if it uses Nerd or not, like the Nerd version, if it uses any of the Nerd stuff, or if it just uses Intel One Mono. Because like I have the Nerd font, I have the Intel One Mono Nerd font. Anyways, doesn't matter, whatever. I wanted Intel One Mono Nerd font, and I installed that because I installed that because I needed Nerd fonts for the various tools that I'm using, and because I like Intel One Mono. Then there's .NET. I haven't installed .NET on this new Ubuntu install that I've done. And I don't know if I will install it or not because I don't do C sharp stuff much these days. And this is like a fresh Ubuntu install that we're talking about. So like, I don't know if I'm going to do any C sharp stuff on this. I'm planning on doing Godot stuff. Um, and for Godot, I'm not using C sharp. I'm planning on using Rust. And like maybe if I'm going to be using a different language, maybe I'll be using their native language, which is GD script. But like, I'm not planning on touching C sharp. So I don't know if I'm going to install .NET. And then there's RustUp. This is a tool for installing and maintaining and updating um, Rust tool chains. So you have your usual Rust tool chain, which is for desktop development. But additionally, if you have Rust tool chains for like very specific purposes, like in my case, I have the ESP Rust tool chain, which contains the tools and the various settings and targets and stuff specifically for ESP32 Rust development. So like if you have different tool chains, you can install them using RustUp. Anyways, I installed RustUp to install the Rust tool chain. I then installed UV. Just is interesting because Just is apparently a Rust replacement or a Rust, I wouldn't call it a replacement, but like it's the Rust version of what of Makefile. For those of you who don't know, Makefile is basically it's a tool where um, you can you can specify rules, or I believe they call them recipes for build scripts. So if you have like a build process where there's multiple things being built and they have to go in succession and then one thing depends on another. So like first one thing has to be done, then another thing has to be done. And then I don't know, maybe things are repeating or maybe certain things have to be checked. There's basically what you would otherwise be writing a very long command for. You could create a recipe which looks a lot more structured and it's a lot easier to read and understand, and this way you can create a much more sophisticated build process, which a lot of tools tend to have very sophisticated build processes. So you kind of want to use something like this. I don't often have that kind of a situation where I have to do this, though I'm getting close to it because there are situations often where I have to what example should I give? There are often situations where I have to write some code in one place and compile it, and then whatever is produced from that, I use it somewhere else, and then that produces an output and then goes somewhere else and stuff like that. So like I might be looking into Just at some point, but like so far for me, it's just writing the commands is enough. Anyways, that's what Just is. Dua is, I think it's disk usage analyzer. I should have installed. Yeah, I didn't install this. I need to install this. I believe this is also Rust based. Then there's PHP. Right now, literally the only thing that I'm using PHP for is, at least locally. The only thing I'm using PHP for is Hacker Mind Map, which is a mind mapping. It's a TUI based mind mapping tool, and I use Hacker Mind Map a lot. So like I believe I did install PHP on that new machine. I didn't install Hacker Mind Map though. That being said, installing Hacker Mind Map is as simple as just copying that entire script. It's one massive script. It's as simple as just copying that entire script and then um, either placing it into a certain directory where it can be found, or editing your bash RC file to add the path for the directory where the Hacker Mind Map script is. So you can then like map it to a certain word or something, a certain term or something. Oh yeah, I think I have to also add that as an alias. I don't remember. Yeah, it's either you place it into a certain directory, or you add a path to a directory where you want to store this, and maybe also rename the thing, because in my case I think I just renamed it to HMM. I don't remember. The steps are there. So anyways, then we have NVM, which is I don't remember. I don't wait words. I don't remember what NVM actually stands for, but I think it's Node Version Manager. I'm not sure, but like it's you use this to install Node and npm and other Node related stuff. npm, I believe, is Node Package Manager. So in my case, I don't use Node like explicitly, but other tools that I use, they use Node. So that's why I need Node. For example, Mason, which is the external tool package manager in NeoVim or in LazyVim. Mason uses, actually, I don't know if it's specifically Mason that's dictating that, but like, no, I don't think it's Mason specifically, but like when you go to install Pyrite and Rough, I forgot which one is which. One of them is a linter, one of them is a formatter. I'm not going to go into the definition of both of them again because each time I do that, I end up uh, going off on like a tangent, and like half an hour later I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is, that is what that is. I'm not gonna yeah, never mind. uh I think Pyrite is a formatter. No, I think Rough is a formatter, and Pyrite is a linter. Regardless, I installed Pyrite and Rough. In order to install Pyrite and Rough, one of these two, I don't remember which one it is. One of these two requires npm because it's installed through npm. And if I don't have npm, then the installation is going to fail. So that's why I needed this. Then there's pipx, which is for, I don't know why I'm going through this entire list now and explaining what each one of these things is. I just realized that. Why am I? Also, I did not install Dirtraw. I need to install Dirtraw, dude. I need to install Dirtraw on this. Um, I need to install Dirtraw on this new Ubuntu machine that I've set up. This is a perfect setting for me to do. No, this is actually perfect. This is actually the perfect setting for me to do any terminal-based artwork in, and especially since I'm planning on doing Godot stuff natively on this machine. Man, I'm so happy because dude, this was one of my best machines, at least when I'd gotten it. This was one of my best machines, which became unusable for me due to various things. And now that I've realized that, now that I've recently, after removing Avast from my machine, I realized that all of those problems might have been because of Avast. To be fair, this it something that probably also contributed is perhaps the fact that the hard drive itself is not that fast, and because of that, all of the other stuff that's going on in the machine already adds a load to the hard drive. And then when Avast is jumping in each time, each time that I try to write to a file, each time that something is opening, each time something is closing, also maybe, um, each time there's a new file that's being run or whatever, Avast like jumps in and does its own thing, but that adds like significant lag, significantly. Say it adds significant lag. It is significantly more slower than if Windows was doing it natively. I've had Windows do this natively, and it is not nearly as slow as when Avast does it. So, anyways, I removed Avast, and since then, my system has become a lot more usable. Every now and then, I do have small issues here and there, but like nothing nearly as bad as what it's been for the past couple of years. And holy shit, it feels incredibly good to have this machine back. And now I'm jazzed up to get back into game development, this time through Godot. And another thing, I also wanted to get back into making tutorials again, and now I'm going to be able to do that. Initially, I was thinking of, trying to connect my microphone and my audio interface to my other Ubuntu machine, and I was concerned that, maybe it might not work out. Maybe I might have to make like a very convoluted setup. But now I have Ubuntu natively running on this machine, and eventually we're also going to be streaming off of this machine through Ubuntu. So like, yo, yo, things are looking up, dude. Things are definitely looking up. Okay, let's get back to this. There are a bunch of things I need to. Yeah, okay. Let me add this to the list as well. Gemini chat. Okay. Um, Discuss why opening multiple Kitty terminals and having Firefox running um, puts a load on this. It okay. You know what's interesting? I'm saying it puts a load on the system, but it's not putting a load on the RAM or the CPU. That's what I can't understand, because you see this when I'm doing this. Okay, yeah, I just remembered. You guys can't see the trails very well because of the way that it's being. Though, okay, that's something that's going to improve when I move this entire setup over to Ubuntu. That's definitely something that's going to improve. Um, what was I saying? Yeah. Anyways, okay. There's a trail that follows the cursor. So the cursor has a trail. I'm starting to forget what I was talking about. Hold on. I need to get it back before it's completely gone. Um, Trail and thing being captured. Oh, yeah. So this trail, it starts to get laggy once I open up a couple of different Kitty terminals. So I need one for one tmux session, another for another tmux session, and I need separate terminal windows, is what I mean. Specifically because I want to stream those and I can't capture them if OBS cannot see them as separate windows. So I can't capture them as separate windows if OBS does not see them as separate windows. So that's kind of a problem for me. Multiple Kitty terminals end up being a little heavier because Kitty uses GPU based rendering. That's one of the special things about Kitty. It uses GPU based rendering. So either it's going to use your discrete GPU, or it might use the CPU's internal GPU, but it uses GPU based rendering. My um my theory, my hypothesis here is maybe multiple Kitty terminals together with Firefox, if Firefox is also using the iGPU, because I'm not invoking Firefox with NVIDIA, NVIDIA, NVIDIA. I'm not invoking Firefox with NVIDIA. Also, I'm not planning on running Firefox through the Ubuntu machine, at least for streaming purposes, anymore. Through my I'm not planning on running it on this machine. I'm going to run it on another machine, capture the thing from there, and then display it over here. One disadvantage, possibly, of doing that is that, first of all, there's not going to be sound, but then I don't use sound anyways from the browser. Like I don't record desktop audio. Even right now, it's just muted. It's just my vocals that are coming through. And there's like rare occasions where I might use sound, one of them being if I'm playing a game, but even that I'm probably not going to be because like I don't play games a whole lot. Though okay, that might change. That might change now. Because another thing I need to look into is setting up Steam. I haven't set up Steam on that. I haven't set up Steam on the Ubuntu machine yet. Dude, I'm so happy about the fact that um, the the GPU driver it installed so easily, so smoothly. I didn't have to worry about too much. Like Ubuntu has this thing called I forgot what it's called. Ubuntu driver maybe. Uh, Hold on. Let me look it up on Google. Ubuntu driver. The Ubuntu drivers command line tool. Yeah, yeah. Ubuntu drivers command line tool. Um, so through this, I was able to list out the available drivers for my, I think it was for my specific GPU, or maybe they were just displaying it in general. I don't know, but like it could have been for my specific GPU based on what I have. Either way, it gave like a list of drivers. Additionally, it also gave a recommended driver. Like it also mentioned which one out of this list the command recommends I install. And then there's another command that I run, which if I run it without any parameters, it's going to install this recommended version. And the recommended version is apparently just a 535 version because there are a couple of other different numbers, but 535 is apparently the best bet in my case. And in general as well, because I think I've seen that on Windows as well. They recommend 535. Not recommend, but like when I go, but back when I, back words, back when I would go to download drivers, I remember seeing this 535 thing very often. Anyways, I'm super happy about the fact that the driver installation was smooth as hell. Like, I'm not even kidding about that. It did everything that it had to do. And this was all through the command line. I didn't need any GUI bullshit for this. Straight through the command line. Just run one command to list the drivers, run another command to automatically install one of the recommended ones. Actually, there's only one recommended. Automatically install the recommended one from that list, and then I just let that installation run. It did whatever extra stuff it had to do. Apparently, it had to do something with the boot manager as well. Um, I don't remember all the details surrounding that. Then there was something kernel related as well. There was a bunch of things that it had to do. It did all of that stuff. No hassle, nothing. It was all good. It didn't even have to ask me for anything. And then later on, it was the only thing remaining was for it to, for the machine to reboot. So it asked if I wanted to reboot. I didn't want to reboot at that point, but I didn't realize that because certain things that this driver installation has done, they do require a reboot for the changes to take effect. Like maybe, so one example is there was an open source GPU driver that was running instead of the proprietary NVIDIA driver that I had installed. So in order to make that switch, you need to restart because otherwise that other driver is going to still be holding on to the GPU. And if you run NVIDIA SMI, which I don't remember exactly what its description is, but like in my case, it's to get details about the GPU. Let me look up what exactly does NVIDIA SMI do. But yeah, if you run NVIDIA SMI without doing that reboot, at least this is what happened in my case. If you run NVIDIA SMI without doing that reboot, then it's going to say that the driver had trouble communicating with something. There's a very specific error that you'll get. When I first told Gemini about this, Gemini was giving me, and this is why this is words. This is one of the situations that made me realize that this is one of those situations that made me realize that forgot what what was I saying? This is one of the situations that made me realize that sometimes questioning Gemini is a good thing, and also giving it full information about, you know, the entire situation, like what all is going on, what has happened, what you have seen, all of that stuff. When Gemini is being your tech support, when Gemini is being your guide for this thing, it helps to give Gemini all of the information. So, because Gemini was suggesting I blacklist the open source GPU driver and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, before doing this, let me let Gemini know, hey, Ubuntu did ask if I wanted to reboot, but I decided not to reboot. And then Gemini was like, oh, okay, you know what? That changes things because there is a chance that during this proprietary GPU driver installation, it already did the blacklist thing to blacklist the open source driver and basically make it so NVIDIA's proprietary driver is able to talk to the GPU instead of that open source driver having a hold on the GPU. So you might not need to do any of this. There's a chance that the driver installation has already done that, but the changes haven't taken effect because you haven't restarted. So I restarted the system. I rebooted, and then everything was fine. Like once I rebooted into the system, I first thing I did was open up BTOP, and I saw a GPU option there. If your system, if there's no like, I think this is specific to NVIDIA. I don't think this is for AMD. I don't remember, but yeah, I think this is specific to NVIDIA. If like a GPU is recognized, which in this case it was, then there'll be a GPU bar, a GPU meter there to show you like your VRAM usage and also your in general your core usage, or in general your GPU usage. And then also if you run NVIDIA SMI, it's supposed to display a table for you. Let me Okay, the NVIDIA SMI PMON command line is okay. This is for PMON, or okay, it's a command line. The NVIDIA SMI PMON command line is used to monitor compute and graphics processes running on one or more GPUs plugged into the system. And this is great because I remember Gemini telling me about this, that you can use NVIDIA SMI, and there was another tool as well. Um, I don't remember exactly, but there was another tool as well, which Gemini was recommending. Basically, the idea was that I need some kind of tool to see which processes that I'm running are actually using the GPU. And apparently, these tools they give you the information about that, which is amazing. Like that's great, dude. This is like having a discrete GPU in my and specifically a discrete NVIDIA GPU in at my disposal on Ubuntu. It's a new experience for me. So like there's a bunch of things that I'm kind of exploring here and trying to navigate through. Oh yeah, let's continue with this thing. I don't remember how I got on that tangent about the NVIDIA GPU and GPUs in general for this new machine. But holy shit, dude, you guys have no idea how happy it makes me to see my machine just booting in so quickly compared to Windows. It boots in quickly, it opens up a terminal quickly. I can get started with like I can have Firefox open, I can have a Kitty terminal open with a bunch of tabs in it to have, I don't know, NeoVim, BTOP, Yahtzee, and a bunch of other like tools. I can have all of this up and running in like no time. It is insane how fast things are. And it's crazy to think that this machine, this laptop, was basically unusable for me for the past couple of years. And I was just barely getting by with this laptop. And now everything is so much better. I feel like, okay, to be fair, I feel like Avast kind of fucked things up for me. If I didn't have Avast installed, I would have had a significantly better experience if I did not have Avast involved. If I wasn't putting so much value into a fucking third party antivirus. To be fair, Windows Defender, I wasn't too comfortable with it back then. I also don't think it was that good back then. It has become good in the past couple of years. And my fault is that I didn't keep up with how good it became because I had just kind of given up on it. And if I would have kept up with it, if I would have known that, yeah, Microsoft Defender is able to do a good, because I knew that it does a job. I didn't know if it does a good job. Now I know it does a good job. At least, in terms of what I was going to be using a third party AV for, it does a decent job compared to that third party AV, if not a better job, actually. It does a decent, if not better, probably better, to be honest. It does a better job than one of the third party AVs, at least the third party AVs that I'm getting for free. Because that's another thing with Avast, right? They're a business. They have to run. It's they need to make money. So there's going to be subscription based stuff. There's going to be one time payments. There's going to be, oh, pay for this, pay for that. You can have this add on, that add on, all of that stuff. It's within their their flashy GUI application that has a bunch of like animations and stuff in it. Um, but like I don't use any of those features. That's the thing. I don't use any of those features. I was using it as a very basic virus scanner. That's it. And additionally, I would be glad that it would sometimes block certain things. But that was like in the past. And now, in the past couple of years, I haven't had situations like that where it even needed to block something that was malicious. But now we are at a point where Windows Defender is definitely good. It does a great job, and I can trust it with protecting the system. But also, I'm I'm just abandoning this system. The system has become a lot more stable than it was before. Um, Definitely, it's become a lot more stable than it was before. Like super, super, like a lot more stable than it was before. I haven't had one of those freezes like I used to have before. I have had situations where Windows on occasion would take a very long time to boot into, and that is usually an indicator that even when Windows is running, once it has completely booted, then even then you're going to have a few lag issues here and there. But even with those situations, I didn't have like nearly as bad of an experience, and I definitely haven't been dealing with like freezes a whole lot, or even like at all at this point. I'm trying to remember now the last time that I had a freeze, ever since I uninstalled Avast, that is. Okay, Gemini chat, discuss why opening multiple Kitty terminals and having Firefox running puts a load on um, the system such that uh, cursor trails become laggy and no, become laggy. Um, Yet BTOP shows barely any RAM or CPU usage. And this is true actually. This is true because words. This is true actually. Um, RAM and CPU usage is still like it. There's barely any RAM and CPU usage, yet the Kitty terminal itself starts to struggle, and it becomes a little laggy. So then if for example I have one Kitty terminal open and I have what was I saying? If for example I have one Kitty terminal open, in that terminal I've SSH'd into another machine across the network, and through SSH I've attached to a tmux session that's running on another machine. I'm then going to be running that tmux session, well, not running the tmux session, but I'm giving input and getting output from that tmux session in my Kitty terminal, right? That output is going to be laggy. And I think even me giving input also tends to be laggy, or maybe it's just displaying in a laggy way and it's actually there's barely any lag, but like I can see the lag. So that's kind of what I'm trying to avoid. And this I was experimenting with this stuff before the stream started. That's why it took time to um, well, start up the stream. Okay, so Gemini chat, that. Okay, test mic and make sure. All right, we are back, and yeah, the stream crashed. That sucks. OBS froze, and then when it came back, then there was a reconnecting thing, and usually when there's a reconnecting thing, then there's not much hope for it to reconnect. So then I was like, okay, let me quickly close OBS and try to open it again, but then in the meantime, the disconnect protection ran out, and here we are. So I'm gonna have to stitch this video, which is okay because at this point I know how to stitch the FFmpeg. I know how to stitch these videos together, these VODs together using FFmpeg, and I'm also able to slice off the ending portion of the first VOD where there's disconnect protection running. So that way I can make it a somewhat seamless thing. It's not exactly seamless. It's still going to show, and it's not seamless. Just straight up, it's not seamless. I'm What was I saying? Yeah, it's not seamless. I'm cutting the ending portion of the video, and the method that I'm using for cutting, I don't think I'm um, re-encoding the thing. So because of that, it leaves the ending portion with like a weird freeze frame or blank frame kind of situation. And when I'm stitching them together, even there, I'm not transcoding or re-encoding anything. So it's not like a proper stitch. They've just been joined together, and the beginning of that clip is probably gonna have like a frame freeze or something. And yeah, it just shows up as like in the final result, it just shows up as a couple of seconds of frozen frames. And I think the audio remains fine for the most part. So it's no big deal. It just shows up as a minor glitch in the VOD, and it's much better than having to wait for, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour or something, however long it takes for the entire video to get re-encoded. This is better than having to do that. Okay, back to what I was talking about. I was talking about the VTuber app on Linux. So the VTuber app is now, I think, officially going to be in legacy mode, I should call it, for lack of a better term. It's officially now being it's officially in its deprecation stage, like the deprecation stage of it has started, I would say, because I'm going to be opening up the app in Unity. Fortunately, I think I should be okay in terms of trying to, what was I saying? Where was I going with that? I think I should be okay in terms of the complexity of the project because I don't have to touch any of the other systems. I mainly, oh, maybe, maybe I might need to set the IP address. Oh, I don't need to do that either because we are not doing any of the remote stuff in it anymore. Yeah, yeah. No need for that either. It might actually be broken as well. I don't even know. Either way, I don't need to look too much into that, into the communication system. I do need to look into the data storage system because I had made this system to do two things. The second thing, I'm probably not going to be using it, but the first thing that I made it for was to be able to store, to be able to read settings from a file and load them up into the the project, load them up into the app, and use those settings. Mainly, the settings that I'm aiming for are these. Hold on. I think you guys might be able to see it on screen if I bring up the overlay. Give it a second. I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably shouldn't have done that. Okay, there it is. So these are specifically these settings: mic RMS multiplier, and then this other mic RMS multiplier, then this other mic RMS multiplier, then a mic noise gate threshold. That's another one. I've been playing around with these, and these are mainly the settings that I use. Oh, also this I believe, AV Cube O1 scale multiplier. I think I was playing around with that as well. That was previously though to change how big the cube gets based on, like, the audio signal that's coming in. The other stuff in terms of wanting what 2023.2.1, that's the Unity version. I need to make sure that I have that version so I can open up the project in it. But yeah, it's mainly these mic settings that I need to have on that other machine. And as long as I have a file that contains these settings that can be loaded by the application, we are golden. I don't need to touch anything else. I do remember words. I do remember working on some logic to enable saving stuff into this file as well. I don't think I went too much further with that because I I don't even remember what the reason was. I think okay, so the update was if we were going to be updating, the update was supposed to be from the virtual stream deck that I had set up. So you were supposed to program some of the controls there in the virtual stream deck to send a specific message to this application. Dude, now that I think about it, there's so many things that could have been simplified. But to be fair, I was working with the knowledge that I had back then, and now I'm working with a significantly higher level of knowledge than before, a higher level of experience than before. That is why I'm most probably just going to be redesigning the entire system. And this time I'm going to be implementing things in a much, much better way. So first of all, Godot. But also, if I want something to be programmable, it's going to be through Lua, because I'm going to put a Lua. I was about to say I'm going to put a Lua interpreter in there, but I'm going to integrate Lua into this project. It's going to be a Rust-based project that's running on Godot, but there's going to be Lua support in it. So kind of like NeoVim, how you can program, you can change various things, you can create like plugins and customize behavior and all of that stuff, all through Lua. Kind of like that. I'm going to make my application customizable through Lua. So there's no like complex stuff going on. I don't need to create a whole separate application that's able to send specific types of messages and all. No, it's all just going to be. Give me a second. Okay, yeah. Um, I'm not going to be. It's not going to be nearly as convoluted as it was before. It's going to be a very sophisticated system though, but it's not going to be nearly as convoluted as before. Now I'm going to have proper structure in the application. I'm also, as time goes by, I'm going to be improving this application and adding more and more things to it. Dude, honestly, because of how slow things had become on this Windows laptop, because of how slow things had become, doing anything in Unity, it became a huge pain for me. It became a massive chore. Like, I would have to deal with lag and then also get creative while working on my application, also try and problem solve while working on my application, and like actively deal with the lag while having to do that other stuff. It made working on Unity applications a huge chore for me, and that's actually one of the many things that drove me away from Unity. um well, there were other things as well, but like that, this was one of the many things that drove me away from Unity. And looking at how smooth Godot is, how lightweight Godot is, like it just makes me want to work on games again. And well, in general, using game engines to make applications, it makes me want to use game engines to make applications again, regardless games or something like a VTuber app like what I'm planning on working on. So yeah, I'm gonna be I'm excited to work on the next iteration of the VTuber app, and this time I'm gonna add in the ability to display an overlay, with like different types of information. I wanna look into ways to display. I should talk to Gemini about this. I want to look into ways to allow people to program an overlay, for example, or display various types of UI. So what I could do then is I could build a system that interprets Lua, and through that Lua, the programmer, which in this case is me, is describing how they want the UI to look like, where the UI is going to be, what text is going to be used, and so on. So in this way, I don't have to recompile the application anytime I make a change to the UI. I just have to rewrite my code and then reload the application. But the thing is, to make something like that very general purpose, it's a very involved task. I'm gonna have to make I'm gonna have to make I'm gonna have to put a limit to what kinds of things can be created UI wise. But there's also the fact that I don't know if I'm gonna be using this kind of a feature nearly enough to justify spending the time building a programmable system, if that makes sense. Um, but I do have ideas. I do want to create an overlay. You know what I could do? I could create a separate overlay application, an overlay application separate from my VTuber application. I could do that. Yeah, yeah, I could do that. Definitely. One disadvantage there is that we'll have two separate applications running, but also I don't think a Godot binary would be that heavy to run. Um, well, I mean, that depends on what you're running, but at least the stuff that I'm running, I don't think it's going to be nearly as heavy to run. So I think running two Godot applications would work out just fine, especially if I'm forcing them to run um, through the NVIDIA GPU. Speaking of which, so on Ubuntu, unless you do certain settings, applications aren't always gonna use the discrete GPU. So if you're invoking commands from, or if you're invoking applications from the terminal, um, the application won't always pick the discrete GPU. It'll most likely go for the iGPU, which is the GPU in your CPU or alongside your CPU. So in order to get it to use your discrete GPU, you have to pass certain flags. On my other laptop, which has an AMD GPU, I would have to set a variable called DRI underscore prime to 1. That's for the AMD GPU, and then it would be using the AMD GPU. Now, for this NVIDIA situation, there's two separate flags, and they're much longer names. But I had a conversation with Gemini about this, and there are these two flags that I have to set before invoking a certain command. And I did test this out as well because when I fired up one of the Kitty terminals using these flags, then it was using the GPU. I looked at BTOP, the VRAM increased, the VRAM usage increased, and also the GPU usage meter was showing some activity. And as I invoked more and more Kitty terminals and even invoked OBS using such flags, I noticed more GPU usage increase, more VRAM usage increase, and so on. Where was I going with this? Why was I talking about this? I forgot why I was talking about this. Oh yeah, I noticed that the Godot editor by default, without me even having to specify, by default it seems to be using the discrete GPU. So I think internally it has logic or whatever is launching the editor, because you don't launch the editor first, you launch their project manager first, and then you select a project, and from there from there that launches the editor. So you aren't launching the editor. That application is then launching the editor. So I think that application probably has logic to detect if there's a discrete GPU, and if you're running on Linux, then detect if there's a discrete GPU. And I think this might be because I could be wrong here, okay? But I remember the developers mentioning that this was a native Linux application, as in it started out as a native Linux application. It still is, but it started out as a Linux application. That's the point. It didn't start out as a Windows application. It started out as a Linux application. So I wonder that's one of the reasons why this thing has been taken care of. But also, even if this wasn't one of the reasons, then like over time, it's an open source project. So over time, the community or any of the devs involved might have suggested adding this thing, and that's great. That's amazing, because that means that I don't need to worry about the Godot editor not using my GPU. And additionally, I could also use stuff like their light mapping tools through my GPU. I could make my GPU do the light mapping calculations. I could also use my GPU for, so they have CPU particles and GPU particles. So they have particle systems, but they have like two separate ones. One is CPU, one is GPU. I don't know if the CPU one is called CPU particles, but the GPU one is called GPU particles. We're dropping frames again. Hold on. We are dropping frames again, which is not good. Hold on. Let's wait for this to stabilize. Okay, I think we are good. Sorry about that. We were dropping frames again, and I had to take care of that situation. Actually, I didn't take care of this. I kind of took care of the situation. I paused some of the other stuff that I have going on. Um, Give me a second here. Okay, right. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So now a bunch of the stuff that's going to be running, I can actually see it running through the GPU, which is a great thing. Dude, this makes me really excited. Like this is why I'm really excited about this, because like, holy shit, dude, there's so much that I couldn't do before. I mean, to be fair, I could do it before as well, but like it wouldn't have been nearly as good, nearly as effective, or well, it would have been effective eventually, but it wouldn't have been nearly as good like in real time. It wouldn't have been nearly as efficient. That's the word I was looking for, not effective. It wouldn't have been nearly as efficient because iGPUs, they have they have their limitations. Like they do rendering. They're meant for rendering, so they're good to a certain extent. They get the job done. But then when you have something that's very demanding on the GPU, very demanding of GPU resources, then they struggle. So that's where discrete GPUs help a lot. And in this case, now I'm actually going to be able to see the power of that. I'm excited, dude, dude, dude. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited about this. I also want to play a bunch of games um, on Linux through Steam. Through Steam, definitely. I want to see out of my library which of the games are um, available for Linux. I'm curious if No Man's Sky is available for Linux. I feel like I should start with something. I feel like I should start with something single player, not jump into something multiplayer. Not that I play multiplayer games all that often, anyways. Um, I do want to set up VR chat at some point later, because now that I have a stable system, I should be able to. Dude, you know what I'm wondering? In the past, one of the reasons why I was not able to get into VR chat, or why I didn't do VR chat all that often, aside from the fact that I started doing, study streams and studying and co-working streams, aside from that, like that was the main reason. But one of the reasons why I didn't do VR chat nearly as often was because Ever since they did the EAC update, like I love the fact that they did the EAC update. Hold on, we're dropping frames again. So I'm going to stop talking, wait for it to stabilize. Okay, hopefully we are good now. Yeah, so like I was saying, one of the reasons why I started or stopped, not stopped entirely, I don't want to say stopped because like I'm still part of that community. I still keep up with the updates. Every now and then I'll watch their developer live streams. I'm part of their Discord. I'm very much invested in the development of this community and of all of the tech surrounding this platform. And yeah, yeah. I'm still very much invested in VR chat. But one of the reasons I stopped opening up the VR chat application, or why I started opening up the VR chat application lesser and lesser over time, which eventually led to me just stopping opening up VR chat altogether, was the fact that ever since their EAC update, which let me say it's I'm glad that EAC was added. I'm glad that they had the EAC update because that has led to a bunch of great things. That has led to the possibility of a bunch of great things being added, being implemented within VR chat, which wouldn't have been implemented otherwise. And it also helped, security wise in various ways. It may not have gotten completely rid of all of the bad elements, at least, software wise bad elements. I don't mean social wise bad elements. The social bad elements might still be there, but software wise, people who could do malicious things with modified clients, those kinds of malicious elements, those kinds of bad elements are what I'm talking about. It While it hasn't completely gotten rid of them, while there are still a few that slip through the cracks, they EAC made it significantly harder for them, and so people who have how do I say this? People have to jump through a lot of hurdles to actually do this. At least from my understanding, they have to jump through a lot of hurdles to actually be able to uh, use a modded client now, and that kind of makes things a lot safer. If it's just people who are looking to be malicious for fun, they're gonna give up very quickly if they have to put a significant amount of effort into this. All that being said, yeah, I'm glad that the EAC update happened, but ever since the EAC update happened, I would have random blue screens when I would try to open up VR chat. So what would happen is I would load up VR chat, right? As it was loading, all of a sudden EAC would throw up a message. I like it was a message from EAC specifically. There was some kind of error that was happening, and there would be an option to close the game, I think. I don't remember. I think there was an option to close the game. I would then click that option and then try and reopen the game again. And this time it would most probably succeed. Sometimes I would have to do it 2 or 3 times before it succeeded. And that was a bit annoying, but at least I would be able to get into VR chat. Here's the thing. Once in a while, one of those errors would soon be followed by a blue screen. So I wouldn't even get a chance to, click the thing, click close and restart VR chat. My entire machine would be restarting. So that became like a huge annoyance for me. That became a huge like inconvenience for me, and it just didn't. It made opening up VR chat not worth it anymore because I was doing a lot more. I still am doing a lot more with my computers than just playing games. So if I have a bunch of things running, I don't want my system just randomly rebooting. That just doesn't work for me. That's not. I can't do that. So hopefully, hopefully on the Ubuntu side, this problem might be solved. I'm gonna have to look into like how that whole thing works. I know that EAC is a thing with VR chat, So now I can look into how well or not well EAC works in general on Linux, and then I can think about installing VRChat. But yeah, I mean, now that I have the GPU driver updated and it's actually using the discrete GPU, I'll be able to launch my games and have them also use the discrete GPU. I'll probably have to set up my cooling pad again just to make sure the laptop is cooling well. But that's not a problem. I have one of my older cooling pads. I can just hook that up. I was actually thinking of making a cooling pad. I would have to order like fans online and then hook them up to either 5 volts or directly to 12 volts. I don't know. I'll see. But yeah, um, I'm excited, dude. There's so much stuff that I want to do. In fact, after I'm done with today's stream, I'm gonna boot back into Ubuntu and get back to setting all the stuff up. I do want to understand like why the Kitty terminal starts to lag a little bit when there's multiple things running, but I am finding solutions for that. Like this thing where I'm going to be running the browser on a whole separate machine, and that machine actually has a lot of memory. That machine has 12 GB of memory. So I don't think it'll be an issue if I have that browser open. I'll only keep the browser open for the time being that I'm streaming, and then once I'm done streaming, I can close that browser and um, yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be there's gonna be a bunch of hold on. So yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of changes that I'm making that I'm gonna be making to the streaming setup. It's probably not going to look all that different on stream. The whole idea is to get this entire get like an exact copy of what you guys are seeing on stream right now. Um, the whole idea is to just recreate this entire setup there, but I need to do it in a way that is optimized enough that my my system is able to handle it. Okay, all right. Hold on just a second here. Okay, okay. Hey, you know what? Okay, yeah, let's wait. Can you? Okay, there we go. Let's go to. I hope it's not like follower only or something. No, I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we are good. Wait, study shader dev. Hold on, what is this person doing? Yo, dude. I think we found a game dev or a tech artist, a technical artist, or yeah, I don't know. We're gonna go hang out in this person's stream. Um, give me a second. Let me set up the raid. Yeah, their name is Pedro. Pedro is working, and they are doing well, working. They're studying something, I think. And okay, just my timing. The person stepped away. Oh, I think they're learning CS because I'm seeing a bunch of different like topics mentioned here. Hold on, hold on. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So that's going to be it for today's stream. I am, after this stream, I have to go cook something. And after cooking, I'm going to boot back into Ubuntu and continue the setup. Oh, I need to note down all of the settings and stuff so I can like take it back to Ubuntu and set it up there. Take it back into OBS in Ubuntu and set up all the stuff there as well. And I'll probably also copy the settings file that I have for the VTuber app just so I can like take it back to Linux and set it up for whenever I do export the Linux build. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's stream. I'm going to stream again tomorrow because we are intending to keep the stream streak going, hopefully. But yeah, yeah, my time is running out. That's going to be it for today's stream. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time.